Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Information Builder's webinar, Customer-Facing Analytics in Retail Banking. For the next hour, industry analysts and retail banking leaders will introduce you to the new generation of customer experience in retail banking. As you'll see, the principal ingredient of this experience is customer-facing analytics. Customer-facing analytics are powerful online and mobile applications, highly visual and easy to use, allowing consumers and small business customers to ask questions of their financial assets, optimize return, and explore opportunity, and in doing so, strengthen their relationship, satisfaction, and loyalty to the bank. Hello, my name is John Deutsch, Vice President and Managing Principal for Financial Services at Information Builders. We have a pretty fast-paced program today, led by Mr. Rod Nelsestein. He's the Senior Director at CEB Tower Group, and Rod will present research, analysis, and vision for customer-facing analytics. Rod will be followed by Ms. Mercedes Leon, Director of Business Intelligence and Interactive Services at Seca Bank in Spain. Mercedes will introduce and demonstrate the bank's implementation of customer-facing analytics. Mercedes will discuss their definition of success, results, and the road ahead. And she'll be followed by Mr. Art Boyku. Art's the Director of IT from Bridgewater Bank in Canada. Art knows that before any analytics can be shared with customers, the data must be right. Art will discuss the bank's data management journey, architecture, integration, and data quality, and the lessons learned along the way to customer-facing analytics. So quickly, I'd like to begin by introducing Information Builders. Information Builders is a global software and services provider headquartered in New York City, which is the financial capital of the United States, with over 1,300 employees across 60 offices worldwide, serving 12,000 accounts and tens of millions of users throughout the world. Financial services is our largest industry served. It's the number one thing that we do, representing more than 40% of our business. Now, Information Builders provides the software platform for customer-facing analytics. Number one, a line of integration products and services to integrate virtually all applications and data in the bank. Number two, a line of data integrity products to organize, cleanse, master, and govern your bank's data assets. And our flagship, powerful analytics, visualization, and performance management to generate new insights and command of your business and distributing those answers anywhere where they are most useful, on a web browser, a tablet, smartphone, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, email, PDF, or, of course, the printed page. Okay. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rod Nelsestein, Senior Director for Financial Services at CEB Tower Group. Rod?
Thanks, John, and thank you for joining us today. Obviously, analytics has been around for a long time, but the traditional view of analytics has been in the back office, in the back room, where we have quants and programmers working on very difficult tasks to create information that people couldn't otherwise get. In thinking about customer-facing analytics, it's really about the change in the retail banking environment and why retail banking needs to think about this pretty extensively. For my part of the program, I'm going to cover three areas: retail banking as a service continuum. When you think about the major pursuits we see in banking today across the mass affluent pursuit that institutions are doing, and a life cycle and a lifetime value of customer. We'll talk about the changing of channels in retail banks. Obviously, we've seen that, but we have some interesting points to make there, and where we see some real opportunity, I think, to leverage customer-facing analytics. And then looking at analytics and data. Obviously, analytics can't mean much without having the right data beneath it, so we'll end with that. So if we use financial planning as kind of the model for a relationship even in consumer banking and retail banking, we know that basic banking takes place early in somebody's career generally, and they start to develop more needs for more complex lifetime transactions, saving for college, investing in houses and things of that nature, and then growing assets and moving to a high net worth position as their life continues. Now, not everybody does this, of course, but if you're looking at those individuals that are classified among the mass affluent, this is kind of the path that they follow, and you need to be able to change what you're doing to meet those needs over time. The other thing is, if we drill down just a moment and look at this at a bit deeper level, you can see that we move from short-term to personal to extended needs. And then we start getting into investments, wealth management, and finally estate planning and financial planning needs at the end of life. So we start with a continuum of personal financial management tools on the left-hand side, and we start getting more complex and sophisticated investment management tools, and then you need to start thinking about how you're going to manage wealth at the end of the day. And I think this life cycle management really speaks to what we see most retail banks trying to accomplish today when they pursue a customer and try to develop lifetime value of that customer. So if we move on to the changes in channels today, we know, for example, that the customers are starting to demand and really want multi-channel service. The real only takeaway I'd like you to focus on this slide is that age 45 is the new age 25. By that I mean if you look at the first two sections where it says all services available on all access points, you can see that even up to age 45, 60% of our respondents, with about 10,000 people responding, said that they want to be able to access services from all access points. Now, if it's look at the next line where it says it's possible to start an operation in one channel and pursue it using one or more other channels. While we expected the younger generations to want this kind of functionality, again, up to age 45, 60% of the individuals in that group want to see that capability. So what we've seen then is it's not only a generational shift, it is now getting to be a mainstream shift that multi-channel servicing is going to be a mainstream need very soon, if not already. And then, of course, we know that there's been a surge in mobile banking, and that will continue to drive change over time. So how are you going to make the branch relevant? Obviously, the branch is not going to go away. And how are you going to make it relevant in the future? And how are you going to integrate it well with the goals and objectives that a person has in using the online channels? We know, for example, that the volume of online banking is at an all-time high, and we project that it's going to continue to grow through the 2015 at a pretty steady pace. You can see the yellow line where mobile banking is increasing fairly dramatically at a faster pace than the online channel. And then branches and call centers are decreasing, and they will continue to decrease, but they're going to have to change in how they provide services and the types of services that they do provide. And then they're going to have to also have an awareness of what went on in these other channels, because a customer coming into the branch will assume in today's environment that you, as the banker, know what they've been doing in an online environment, so they don't have to come in and explain what they've just been doing, that you actually have that integrated view of what that customer is doing, has been doing, why they've been doing it, and why it's important to them. The other thing we need to think about here is if you think about people who are on the left-hand side of this graph, they want to do personal face-to-face business only, and on the right-hand side of the graph, these are people very technologically savvy, and they want to interface with your bank on a technological basis. You can see that the quality of engagement continues to decline as you move to those virtual channels. So here's the area where customer-facing analytics has to come into play so that you can actually think about how are you going to serve that customer? How are you going to differentiate yourself? How are you going to know what that customer wants when it's all in a virtual sense? You can't plug people into this on a face-to-face basis that you have in the branch where people can look someone in the eye, listen to what they say, and then serve their needs. This is where analytics have to really play a major role in helping understand what that customer is trying to accomplish so that these downward lines could be turned into upward lines. And this is a pretty significant finding from our perspective that while people are moving to more self-service and technological usage, they're not really that happy with it. But this is for good reason, and banks are really investing in digital channels and customer experience. And we think that this is the right thing to be able to do. And there are very good reasons for doing this. And we think that analytics here plays a major role, not only in the investments here, but if you think about the categories of online marketing and cross-sale versus customer experience, applying the right analytics so that you're delivering the right message to the right customer is going to be critical to that customer satisfaction and customer experience. So even in simplistic things like, what seemingly simplistic things like marketing, you want to get it right, especially on a digital channel where today a lot of people are finding a lot of offers being nothing more than spam. And why is all this important? Well, we completed a survey this past year of thousands of consumers across the globe, and what we found was that confidence in banks really is still lacking. You can see North America is a high at 21%. And people that are less confident, actually the number of people that are less confident exceeds the number of people that are confident. The rest are kind of ambivalent in between. They're not sure whether they've had any change in their attitude toward their bank. But this does not bode well for banking because it's a major uphill battle that banks will be facing over the next several years to restore that confidence. The other thing is that, so we know how people feel about banks, and they don't feel that good about banks, but how do they feel about their own personal finances? Well, we think that this is a little better. In fact, it's markedly better in many ways. But again, across the globe, many people do not feel better about their personal finances, and they are looking for solutions or something they can do, and this is where we believe because of this lack of good sentiment, this is an opportunity. It's not a negative issue. It's an open door. And why do we think that? Well, if we look at North America, for example, what we've seen here is that that many people have quit using formal budgeting processes, and more people have quit using a financial plan. The number of 12% of people using a financial planner stayed even in our last survey, but in reality, this is an opportunity because people have put aside their financial planning, and it's a latent need that exists in the marketplace. So just because somebody has not been doing something and they've been, in fact, doing it less doesn't mean that there's no opportunity. In fact, from our perspective, we think this is time to seize that opportunity. There's opportunity in a downturn. If you look at what's happening in Asia and the Pacific region, this is really clearly a tremendous opportunity because it's in developing economies across the globe, not just in Asia, but anywhere we find them, we see that there is a greater interest in thinking about budgeting and that people are really thinking about financial planning for the long term. One of the key areas we've seen this, for example, is in India, where financial planning, insurance products, life insurance, the long-term thinking about their finances have really come into the forefront and has been a rapidly growing marketplace. Well, this is a door that I think that financial planners in the retail banking can walk through as well and really have a tremendous opportunity for growth, specifically since the number of mass affluent people is growing very rapidly. Meanwhile, in Latin America, we've seen a marked increase of people actually tracking their budgets closer and thinking more about financial planning than they have in the past. And we think that this, again, is more of an issue of thinking about the long term, which is something they had not maybe thought about many years ago, but as time has gone on, we think that this move toward better budgeting and better financial planning, again, offers a tremendous opportunity for institutions. So now let's move to the last section of my part of this presentation and talk about analytics and data a bit. We know, for example, that analytics has been evolving its value to financial services from the traditional risk management all the way across to growing the business, from business intelligence with a backward view to customer intelligence with not only a current view but a predictive view as well. And that's where on the top we used analytics in the back room for evaluating, looking for causes, but now we're using it for predicting and thinking about the future in working with our customers, moving it to real time or near real time or as close to real time as we can get it. And the value chain here really is an additive process, and it encompasses the entire business relationship, whether you're trying to retain customers, whether you're trying to do a needs analysis, whether you're trying to improve processing. One of the key areas that we see institutions failing at today is in business processes. Business processes impact customers. They impact customer satisfaction. That's true whether it's a direct process that the customer has to execute online, or if it's an indirect process that creates latency, confusion, or lack of integration on the back end if it's in a human process. So the other issue is that trying to get ahead of the deluge of data that's coming, we think is really an important issue for institutions to think about. We don't have to own all the data, but we do have to be able to find the right data at the right time and deliver the right service. And regardless of how much you think data is going to grow, whether you think we're conservative here or we're aggressive here, the fact is that the volume of data is growing faster than the ability to use it. And we've seen that today, especially as we think in terms of the analytically driven banking readiness. If you look at the bottom, what we're saying there is that the technologies available today are ahead of the institution's ability to absorb them and use them. And this, again, goes back to change management, process management, and all those things that banks have to accomplish, plus the fact that they've got sunk investments that they need to recover. And so we see the technologies are there, and that opens the door for first-mover opportunities in our view. But as we move more toward sentiment analysis, capturing and leveraging context, leveraging unstructured data better, the technologies that are already there can help you do that if you're prepared to make that kind of a change internally. And then one of the key issues, if you're going to start doing analytics and make them customer-facing, they'll be of no use to the customer unless they have the visualization techniques. There'll be no use to the employee either who's trying to meet a need in real time if it's in a branch setting. So all of these issues of being able to depict unseen events and participant links, to know who's connected to whom from a customer perspective, to display interdependency, priorities, mapping, and subordination. Now, to be honest, these technologies have really been developed in fraud technology and sophisticated Department of Defense types of technologies where they're looking for links and they're actually looking for crimes or criminals. But if you think about it, those same analytics can really have a very significant impact on the customer side of things. Think of a screen that is sitting, that I'm looking at on my handheld, and one of the lines that I'm thinking about is pulsing. In other words, it's telling me that that's been a major change, and I should look at that more deeply as I look at my finances. These are the kinds of things that we're looking at in this visualization capability. And then finally, from our perspective, analytics is still a decision-making tool, but it doesn't always make just the decisions for you. You can take raw data, complete the analysis, get insight, but you can get to an off-target truth. In other words, what good is a sign that says, caution, the edges of this sign has sharp edges? That's of really little value. And what we're trying to get to is figure out how to leverage the relationship between data and analytics and the human capability from a staff perspective and the human intuitive decision-making that a customer will make. Well, at this point, I'd like to turn the floor back to our presenter.
Well, thank you, Rod. I appreciate that. And a couple things I took away from that conversation. One is customer-facing analytics is bidirectional. It's not only the consumer or small business looking into the bank through an online or mobile interface, but it's also the bank looking out to that customer, and by measuring and better understanding that customer's experience, improving that experience over time. Mr. Art Boyku, he's the Director of IT at Bridgewater Bank. And Art's perspective is that customer-facing analytics, as powerful as it is and as bidirectional as it is, begins with a data management journey, one of architecture and integration and data quality. So to describe that journey and perhaps some of the lessons learned along the way, I introduce Mr. Art Boyku. Good afternoon.
So thank you very much, John. I think it's really relevant that the triangle is used or pyramid is used here, because when you're building your business intelligence, the foundation is very important to sustain the top. So I'm going to be talking about things that we've actually done and learnings along this journey and where we're planning on heading to. So first of all, everybody has a disclaimer on their websites and all the legal things. And I think that's something that's important for any consumer interaction, that they understand how you're going to be using their information and what rights they have associated with capturing the information. So in all of our customer-facing situations, we are very careful in terms of protecting their data and information, as I believe everybody has. And I don't want to underemphasize that, because architecture plays a big role in that within the encryption, etc. So I just thought I'd throw that up and bring those points to bear, as I'm sure everybody is well aware. So Bridgewater Bank, who are we? We are a Tier 1 charter bank in Canada. We have over 200 employees with over $4 billion in assets and over 70,000 accounts with customers across Canada. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Alberta Motor Association, which means that we are truly a branchless bank, that we have a head office and we rely on our business partners, which are the different CA club members, and also our B2B or business-to-business partners. We have a broker partnership that have business development managers and brokers across the country. Our products are basically the deposits, the residential mortgages, and the credit card, the CA credit card. And we also have a Bridgewater Bank card, and we're also in white label products where we will brand cards for specific business partners. We are moving more to the B2C, and why this is so relevant for us is the credit card is moving us in that direction, and also the opportunities around our mortgages and deposits and working directly with consumers in terms of cost savings. So within Bridgewater Bank, I set up four main tiers of our program portfolio. So it's be able to take advantage of the consumer market space or to improve our business, we really have to set a focus in specific areas. So our core systems high grades, can they do what we need them to do when we need them to do it? Do they have the right functionality? Integration and automation, we use information builders here, and I'll have an architecture diagram showing that. But it's really saying, let's get rid of all the unnecessary paper processes and manual process in the process flow. When we think about increasing the business, it's easy for somebody to say, yeah, if we increase our business 50% this year, we can add another person. When I talk to our business, I say, what would happen if you increased your business by 10 times? What would happen? How many more people would you need? How much more would that stack of papers be on your desk? A lot of people don't like the question of process reengineering. They think, is somebody coming to say that I'm doing a bad job? No, it's saying if we increase our business 10 times, how scalable are you? How can we make it better? How can we make it efficient and automate? Business intelligence, single source of the truth. Everybody's heard about that. The strategy that I have is to create a business intelligence layer separate from the application layers. We don't want to be redoing all the business intelligence because it's built in an application and the application's being replaced. So building a continuous long-term business intelligence and awareness is critical, and having that as its independent component is very important, both in your architecture and in your company's growth and capability. External presence, that's our web environment, the interaction with it, and the user experience. And that also deals with our external presence with our broker and our partner communities, as well as our regulators. So how can they get information electronically, directly with digital information? And then, of course, supporting all this is our application support and quality assurance processes. So I think everybody has the same challenges, and this is how we've structured our environment to be able to deliver. Again, traditional business intelligence, this is one of the questions that has come up to me is why are you doing things differently? Traditional business intelligence is based on a business driving it, trying to get their performance indicators, leading, lagging indicators. Here's the information I want. And there's typically two reasons an executive is responsible for a product success or a product line, or they're responsible for an operational division. They need the metrics to operate this efficiently. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the non-traditional approach, but this part's easy when you're you get funded to do certain work, and it's very focused on the business priorities and the business value. Well, I think everybody's seen something like this in their information stockpiles. I had a VP once that I worked with, a senior VP in another industry, and I asked him about business intelligence. He says, I don't need any of that fancy stuff. I can just go ask the person and they can go and get it. Well, what this person does is he knows somebody who knows where all the data is in the garage, and they come out and get it. And, you know, for your information owners, it's easy to get at. You know exactly where everything is, but, you know, in my garage, if you wanted something, good luck trying to find it. And I think that's what we're all looking at, is saying, where are all those pockets of information and how does it work together? When we think about working together, I like to think of it like this. If you can imagine yourself sitting there in front of a symphony, the sounds that come out of those instruments, the harmonics, it's amazing. I don't think when you're sitting there you realize how much work it took to get all those people playing at the right note, at the right time, at the right pitch, with the right size or scale of sound. It's amazing. Plus the individual practice. This is significant. And what our job is, or my job is to make this seem easy. When you go to a performance, a live theater, anything that happens, it should seem easy for the consumer. And that's what we're trying to do, is how do you do all the work in the background so that they get what they need, what they want, when and where, and how they want. And that talks about all the mobile technologies. But it's really relevant to say, how do I want this to work, and have that vision. So here's a traditional business approach. I've talked about it, research and development. That's where you're defining new product. In the pharmaceutical industry, you have a long time for research and development, a long time to market, a long harvesting, protected harvest period, and then a decommissioning, and you gather business intelligence throughout the cycle. In the banking industry, you have to be very quick and responsive. You have to get your product to market before your competitors, and you have a short time to harvest before something else changes, the regulatory environment, the interest rates, the bond rates, the global economy, etc. So this is where you have to understand that it's not one size fits all, and you have to understand what is your product life cycle and where do you have to fit it. So business intelligence not only deals with knowledge about the customers and the information you're getting, it's about your business life cycle and how you maximize the value that you're bringing to the consumer, and thereby maximizing your profitability. So dashboards and analytics, I think everybody has these, and one of the things that I talked about with the business is we're going to get the dashboard out there as soon as possible, and we will show you the bad data. When you talk about data quality, spending all the time up front to try and clean it all up, you'll never get there. But if you put the dashboard and analytics out in front of them, and they see bad data, they'll clean it up, and they will clean it up at the source so that they don't have to repeat the work. So I think dashboards are very powerful, both for your data quality as well as for the information that you gather from it once you've got it in the right place. So that's one piece of guidance here, is to get your development or test environment, get it up, and get your business people looking at it and questioning their own data and solving their own problems, so you don't have to run to them to do all the cleanup work and have a lot of issues with that. So external understanding, I think we've all seen that on Ron's slide there around the increasing of complexities both in the business, regulatory, technology, and consumer market space. Consumer intelligence. I really like talking about this. Consumers are becoming more and more intelligent about competitors, about what their expectations are. But when I look at it, there's different levels. And I'm thinking about the bank from inside looking out. So we have customer acuity. What is a good customer? Who are they? Do we really know who a good customer is? Customer centricity. What is it about them? How did they get here? How did we attract them, and how do they become a good customer? How do we engage them in them bringing more good customers to us? And consumer intelligence is, what is that whole market space? What is a total opportunity based on the knowledge that we have? So intelligence is different from analytics. Analytics says, here's all the data, what do I do with it? And you can talk about big data, et cetera. And to me, intelligence is saying I understand how people think, why they think, how they react to different events, what their life cycle journey. And Ron talked about how you become part of the life cycle and all the different events. So a person may have poor credit rating at the beginning or no credit at the beginning of their life cycle. Establish a good credit rating. There might be some life experiences where all of a sudden they have a challenge, and then all of a sudden they become whole again. So what are those life events? What are the impacts? How do you treat this consumer? Personal financial management, social patterns, behavior patterns. That's what I believe intelligence is, and understanding consumers. And by understanding what they're looking for and wanting, you can fit into what they need, as opposed to you trying to figure out, how do I sell products? You say, what is it that a consumer needs? The interesting thing that I've brought into our business is saying, what do you think the consumer wants? And they always start with they. And then I said, no, stop for a second. You are a consumer. When you come to a bank website, what is it that you want to be able to do? Think of yourself as a consumer and how you act, and apply that knowledge here. So we're really trying to change the perspective of who a consumer is, with the actual people being involved in the projects looking at themselves and saying, what do they think and what do they want, and challenging themselves on that. So again, customer acuity. How do you find the good customer? The ones that you provide a lot of value to and they provide value back to you. Customer centricity, saying, here's all this big data out there. How do you take those patterns and knowledge of your customer, and how do you find them in the global market space, in the different social environments? How do you attract them? How do you connect with them? So when we talk about customer centricity for life, I still have, and I still bank with, the very first bank that I got my first savings account when I was 5 years old. I remember walking up to the teller. I remember being so proud, getting my little gold bank book and getting the $100 that my grandmother had given me for my birthday. And I still bank with them. I get credit cards. The mortgage that I had was through them, et cetera. So how do you engage customers in that whole lifespan, and how do you create value for them, and how do you honor that? And from there, we get into the extended customer centricity. How about the extended family? So an interesting piece of business intelligence was, we found in our credit card business, people that have family cards have a higher spend than if they have an individual card. So then you look at that and say, so even though the family is spending probably the same amount, if you extend the card to other family members from the original card holder, the total spend being done with your bank is increasing, which is valuable. So how do you build that value proposition with your customer, where they see your products and see how it fits, and how do you extend that on? So it may be a son or daughter going off to university and they need a card for emergencies, or somebody going on a trip. What are those different things that I think would be handy for me, and how do I make that available to potential consumers? Well, here's a very interesting story, and we get into the architecture. The Winchester Mystery House. Look at it online, and it's what happens when you don't have an architecture. And I kind of equate it to CRM, because I have a big challenge. We need a CRM. We need a CRM. So on the outside, this looks like a fantastic house. All the information's there. It looks great. And then you look inside and you go, holy crap, how many times do you walk up the wrong stairway and get to a door that doesn't open? So when you think about that, I've got an example where what does bad data mean that leads you down the wrong path? So we're having a discussion of active credit card holders. So one person's got a number. There's 4 different numbers out there. The first person thinks an active credit card holder is somebody that's phoned in and activated their credit card. Well, they never use it. So that's been a cost to us. It costs us X amount of dollars to get them the card, and they don't use it. So, but that's an active card holder. Another active card holder was somebody who activated the card, used it to get the promotion, and stopped using it. They were active. And then the third definition was somebody who's used the credit card for within the last 60 days or the last 30 days. So you have very many different definitions. And so if you have the wrong definition, or you have different people looking at that terminology differently for different reasons, you're going to end up with poor decisions, and you're going to end up with a door that doesn't open, and you're going to have to retreat and relook at that. So architecture is bigger than your infrastructure architecture. It's bigger than your data, and the next slide hopefully gives you a picture of what we've actually implemented and are implementing in Bridgewater Bank. So the wording is fairly small, but we have our different layers of the business rules, the business intelligence, the data layers, the integration points, all the different data sources, how they come in. Along the right side, if you want to lean closer to your screen, you see all the information builders products that we have in place that help us build this environment. So we have the business intelligence presentation layer, which I think everybody is familiar with. But there's also a lot of the data quality and data management tools that are essential in building our business intelligence layer, as well as the foundational environment associated with good data. So I want to stress architecture and say you don't build it all at once, but if you have a framework and you start building it as you go and you do it right, you won't end up with a Winchester house. So to finish my conversation, there are a lot of things underneath that gets you to actual consumer intelligence, and it's saying what is everything that I need to know or want to know about the consumer, about myself, and how can I provide value. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Art, thank you. I appreciate that. So had Mercedes Leone from Sica Bank been here, she would have shown you a personal finance management tool, Encuenta, which they use as their principal user interface in consumer retail banking. And I think most of you on the call are familiar with what PFM is. It's an ability to not only track your spend, but analyze your spend, ask questions of your spend, identify trends, prepare for changes that might be income, like a new child or perhaps saving for a new home, set alerts when certain conditions are arriving that perhaps are unknown or would force you to consider alternative spending strategies now. Now, what I liked about Encuenta is it's a very well-designed, very visual tool. When I say visual, it's also laid out well. A lot of white space, very easy to follow and track. I think a very careful use of colors. But this is what their retail bank consumer sees when they engage the bank. So in the old days, if I had questions about my finances, my assets, I might engage a banker or perhaps even a sophisticated teller to ask those kinds of questions. With Encuenta, the consumer, and in many cases the small business customer, can ask the questions themselves. And there's a number of features here that I think are very exciting, some of which you have seen from other products. For example, the ability to understand the entire life cycle of spend. Another one that I liked was the ability to import wealth assets from other institutions. Say in the United States, you might have a 401k for retirement or a 529 for saving for a child's education. Perhaps you have an investment portfolio with another provider. The ability to import those wealth data sets into one place where you can see a total combined picture of your wealth and begin to ask questions that span that entire set of assets, I think is very important. Also, Encuenta provides the ability to benchmark my spend and my behavior, my spending behavior, from others in my geography or others in my age group. And I think that as we have seen from plenty of online services like, Amazon, for example, the question, what are others like me doing, is a very popular question, very informative, and oftentimes the simplest direction to understand, particularly for the retail banking consumer. Again, I won't go into this. This is Mercedes territory. Unfortunately, she could not be with us because of the audio difficulties that we had. But what struck me, and I think it's perhaps apparent to you, is that folks, even though, as Rod had mentioned at the top of the broadcast, there are some trust issues remaining with banks, and in some cases pretty significant. What SECA Bank found is that customers trust the bank's software and the bank's analysis of their assets more than they would a third-party provider. So it sounds right, and their customers are suggesting positive reaction to the bank's provision of a personal financial management tool as the principal interface to the bank. Not only does it provide advantages for the customer that we saw, the ability to provide a deeper understanding of my spend, planning, budgeting, trying to understand period over period changes in behavior and the impact of potential new expenditures going forward. But it also provides the bank with a number of advantages. One, the customer, I should say the consumer or small business, sees the bank as innovative, dynamic. It imports a new dimension of information about that customer, who they are, what they do, what's important to them, what are the areas of their assets are they most focused on, and perhaps a better understanding of what products and services should the bank offer that customer next. And also the way that Encuenta has been designed and built, it's very simple and fast to implement, which is very important because we know that on the consumer side in particular, we can expect to find a full spectrum of technical abilities, and so simplicity is key and paramount. Let's see if there's anything else that jumped out at me here. I think we're beginning to see, certainly in the United States, that there is an increase in the number of customer-facing analytics that banks are making available to their small business and consumer audiences. I've seen over the past few weeks PNC Bank has moved forward with a number of new offerings for small business. In the past, I've seen things from Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo and others. And clearly, the demand for an enhanced digital experience as my principal interface to my assets, the services that I expect from the bank, is increasing. And the need for banks to understand what those opportunities are and begin, at the very least, to begin to prototype and to begin to bring to market those new capabilities are important, as suggested by Rod's presentation at the top of this material. So if I can just go to a summary here, and perhaps we'll have just a few moments for questions. These are some of the takeaways that I gathered, certainly in preparation for this webinar today. That number one, the retail bank branch has or is giving way to the digital, what Rod called multi-channel, or you might have also heard the term omni-channel. And the multi-channel experience is either online, it's mobile, and in an increasing number of instances can be disconnected as well. Also, that customer-facing analytics are a key ingredient in that multi-channel success, and they must be visual and easy to use. And as Rod had pointed out earlier, when there is a call or need for help, the consumer or small business user must be able to very quickly engage the services of the bank for assistance. As illustrated by Encuenta, the PFM tool from Seco Bank, and other examples which I pointed out earlier, PFM is a key example of customer-facing analytics in retail banking, and it provides benefits for both the customer and for the bank. And then, of course, no journey to customer-facing analytics is truly underway until the issues that Art addressed, architecture, integration, data quality, are first and foremost in the planning stage, because until that data is clean, until that data is understood, until that data is in a form in which we can deliver accurate and reliable information to customers, it simply isn't ready. So that is the portion of the journey that Bridgewater Bank is on currently. And I think you also saw with some of the trends and demographics in Rod's presentation that there is urgency, and the need to move on customer-facing analytics is indeed right now. So what information builders would like to say quickly in closing is that Information Builder's software line that I described earlier serves as the software platform for customer-facing analytics. And what is a software platform for customer-facing analytics? Well, we like to believe there are 5 prerequisites by which this platform must be measured. Number 1, as mentioned, data quality, because no matter how powerful the analytics or beautiful the visualization, if the data is not accurate or reliable, it's harmful to your customer, and they are unforgiving, as we've learned. Number 2, the ability to ask any question of any data for all levels of technical ability. The consumer and small business customer demands timely and relevant advice and service in this online and mobile environment. And that's independent of where the data, the underlying data that answers that question, no matter what that data is or where it resides, it must be delivered in a form that any degree of technical ability can use simply without question. Number 3, security. Obviously security, auditability, reliability, and high performance are key attributes of any banking system, customer-facing or otherwise. So sensitive and regulated data, which was previously accessible only within the 4 walls of the institution, is now eligible to be pushed outside the firewall. And Information Builders exceeds these security requirements as determined by the stringent OWASP security certification process. Prerequisite number 4 is enterprise operational reporting. That's a buzzword, but it means the workload inside the bank necessary to push out hundreds of thousands of reports throughout all corners of the institution. And no other analytics engine can deliver the volume, performance, and reliability necessary for enterprise operational reporting. So in thinking about pushing information outside the firewall to customers, we cannot forget about the needs of the bank. And 5, mobility. And here we suggest that the ability to write the application once, but to deploy it anywhere is a prerequisite. Because mobile constitutes the fastest growing channel in banking, and Information Builders applications are built once, yet deployable to an unlimited number of online and mobility devices. And the same capability delivers interactive e-statements to customers. That's to say that customer-facing analytics are possible even when disconnected from the Internet. And I see we have just a couple of short minutes. I'll give the operator an alert. Perhaps myself and the presenters can be available for a quick question. But in advance of that, I do want to say thank you all very much for joining us.